Hello, it's me, out walking in the rain, because session number 2 of my known space campaign wrapped up this morning. We started about 20 minutes late because, alright, so last night I had a power outage from about, I want to say 12:50, 12:45, something like that, at night until sometime like 5-ish in the morning. And so I went and shut down my computer completely so that I would hopefully have some battery power in case I had to run part of the session without power. And also my alarm clock, other than my phone, but my good alarm clock that's most consistent for me, plugs into the wall, doesn't have a battery. So that was a bit of an issue that I had to be ready to deal with. So anyway, I woke up at like 5-10 minutes before 6. It was fine. And then went to start up the computer, and I got halfway into setting up all my Roll20 and Discord, and then I had a blue screen of death. And it took about 10 minutes to get the computer restarted and working properly again, because it was incredibly slow and clunky after the blue screen restart. So we got to deal with some delays on that end. Now, on the other hand, this was a much better session in the sense that, you know what, our Australian player was able to be there for almost the entire session, and it was really fun. So a few things happened in the off session. So we've got a Discord channel set up on the server for that's called the Ship's Lounge, and it's for any in-character conversations and interactions that we want to have that have to happen, that can happen outside of the session. Ways to kind of build a group identity and chit chat and discuss backstory and all that kind of thing, and just kind of fool around and have fun when the session's not happening. I've discovered that it's one of the most important tools for online campaigns, which is why frankly, I'm almost to the point where the only reason I use Roll20 is a dice roller. A lot of combat, I often find myself not needing a map, and finding, in fact, digital mapping to be very clunky. And so I'm thinking of just finding a good dice roller bot for the server, and we could even just kind of not use Roll20 at all. Anyway, as I was saying, in the Discord chat, the Ship's Lounge, we'd had a few little developments. The party kind of interacting. They got to know a little bit of the ship's doctor's prior service history. She was former military, and that sort of thing. And then we kick off with the party about to make their first out-of-system jump. They've picked up their cargo and everything. It's 100 tons of wood and a secure server for a mail run and a passenger. They got a little bit of everything. Okay. And their first stop is for the mail run. And that's 3 jumps. So during the first jump, our ship's pilot, Dag Ayomi, whose real name is Jasper Creon. He's operating under a false name because he jumped ship from his previous ship. So he's quite the colorful character, and he's decided he does not trust the professor that the party is transporting. Hopefully you remember him from last week's video. And he decides he's going to do something about it. He's going to try and lean on the guy and get him to talk. And if that doesn't work, he's at least going to make the guy hate him so that the captain of the ship, and really everybody else in the ship, can look like the good guys for being, number one, by contrast, and number two, by being, quite appropriately, a little upset by Dag's behavior. So, he's harasses the guy, accuses him of vague things, and gets really nowhere with it, but is undeterred. And he decides, you know what? With a little bit of assistance from the captain and certain others of the crew who are interested in this scheme, I'm going to sneak into his room, plant a bug, search for trouble, and that sort of thing. So, a scheme develops involving the captain, Wamayana. Yeah, it's an impossible name to pronounce. That's why we generally just call him Yana or Captain. The ship's mechanic, Wilhelm Fritz, and Dag. So what they do, the captain essentially just arranges to not be anywhere nearby and maintain plausible deniability, and he provides Dag also with a bug to try and plant in the professor's cabin, see what's going on. And Wilhelm gets the professor to come out of his cabin, where he'd kind of been laying low, keeping to himself. Gets some tea, has a nice conversation about the professor's species history. The professor is a devious, and one of the more common alien races in the setting. And Wilhelm, although he's a fairly competent starship mechanic, he's never actually served on a ship. He was part of a spaceport crew, and he grew up his whole life on this one little comparatively backwater planet. So about 15 minutes of conversation goes on. In that time, Milan Ostrovich, the ship's kind of self-appointed security officer, because he's former military and a really good shot. This is generally a competent combatant, more so than the rest of the group. He finds out there's a scheme going on. He doesn't know what it is, but he knows that Wilhelm and the captain and Dag are all up to something, and he decides to go find the captain and figure out what the heck's going on. The captain is unhelpful, but hints vaguely at what's going on. Milan goes away. While this is going on, Dag plants his bug, looks around, determines that at least in the professor's bedroom there's nothing hidden, though for some reason he never stops to actually go out into the main room and look at the professor's computer, which is like sitting right there, and what I was expecting to come out of this, but he never did that. Instead, he went into the head, the ship's bathroom attached to the professor's cabin, and stole all the toiletries, or grabbed them all, then ran yelling through the ship to where the professor and Wilhelm were talking, throws vague accusations, basically does his best to act completely insane. At the time, I wasn't sure if he was just kind of goofing off or if there was a scheme behind it, and it was the first time that I've asked someone twice, "Are you sure you want to do that?" before moving to rolls. And he was sure. So we did it. Milan happened to be in the same vicinity and, couldn't help but hear the yelling. So he walks over. And with the assistance of Connie, the ship's doctor, they catch and pin Dag and give him a sedative to knock him out for a while, and the captain apologizes extensively and profusely for the conduct of his pilot, with an apology which the now thoroughly bewildered professor accepts. So far, he hasn't really opened up much since then, but he does seem to trust the captain and loathe the pilot. Now, the party completes their 3-jump run out to Bacharach's, their mail drop point. While on the way, they finally finish breaking into the ship's logs they stole from a vessel whose crew had harassed them in their previous port, harassed and attacked them, and find out that the captain's story, as much as he has specifically told, checks out, though there are still some funny bits around the edges that they're wondering about. And they cash in their mail run. So at this point, the ship, Dag, who, by the way, is an addict. He's addicted to this setting's equivalent, essentially, of heroin. Expensive, really, really hard to break the addiction, and illegal. Now, he spent essentially every penny he had packing Aldemar, buying up for the run. And he still used up all he had by the time they got to Bacharach's, even counting the considerable amount of time he spent knocked out after the doctor sedated him. So now, and Bacharach's, the place where they stop, is a Vartec corporate landing. It's really kind of a small facility, and in particular, they are not going to be able to find a dealer for his hit. So, he's starting to have withdrawal. Now, his drug is a physiological addiction, as opposed to a psychological, which means that his body has become dependent on this drug. And it's extremely addicting. Yeah. Fortunately, at this tech level, there are some tools that can at least help treat the addiction. Mechanically speaking, he's rolling at an HT roll -10 to break the addiction, and I give him access to a drug that'll let him make that a -5 instead of a -10, which is still really hard with an HT of 10. And they make a go of it. So over the course of the journey, well, let's just say he's not doing too hot. He's down to 0 current hit points, so he's hovering at the edge of consciousness most of the time. Tends to kind of fade in and out unexpectedly. And he's 4 out of 14 successful HT rolls away, towards 4 out of 14 towards breaking his addiction. And that's with my rewarding his oh so close but not quite there failures, basically failures by 1, by upgrading, or rather downgrading, the penalty to his roll a little bit, which feels appropriate and also lets us potentially get this character out from under his habit, though I don't think he's feeling inclined to do so. I think he is far more inclined to borrow money from his shipmates to the extent that he can, until he can pay off his, until he can buy more of his drug and not deal with it. But, in any case, the party has arrived at the Xeon system. They're making a little side trip on their way to deliver their passenger, because they believe thanks, by the way, to DAG, that they can find some less legal but potentially more lucrative per ton cargo for them here in the system. Something they can transport on commission for a nice paycheck. We shall see how that works for them. The Xeon system is a bit of a pirate haven, kind of a cesspit. Now, Vartech does maintain a small military outpost here for the purpose of pirate hunting, because it's close enough to their actual client states that this pirate haven presents a threat to some of their clients' shipping. So the party isn't going to be completely at the mercy of anybody who wants them. And it's worth noting also that their ship's cargo is wood, and they're a bunch of broke free traders. So by and large, unless somebody comes after the professor and his research, the party should be relatively safe. But we shall see. We shall see what kind of trouble they get themselves into. I have at least one item planned. Basically, I intend for Connie to end up in trouble. Some fairly long-lasting and complex trouble. And I'm sure that DAG is going to get himself in trouble, because it's the thing he's best at. And other than that, we shall see. We'll have a new campaign update for you about this time next week. So stay tuned.